Welcome to Productive Discourse. The Productive Discourse is a conversation where we talk about the positive activities that are taking place within our communities. In other words, we're constantly searching for that shining needle of common ground in that haystack of fear. Today, we're continuing our discussion on the great athletes that got their starts on the playgrounds and baseball diamonds of the city of Oakland. We're talking about athletes that brought what I call the 3 E's: energy, enthusiasm, and excellence into their sports, where many won championships, some were elected to their sports halls of fame, and they served their communities. Today, I'm pleased to have as our guest Leon Monroe. Leon is a managing director of Marmign Associates, a graduate of the University of San Francisco. He's involved with community service, youth development, and he officiates sporting events. He got his start as a baseball umpire, and now he's an administrator for the East Bay Football Officials Association. Leon, welcome to Productive Discourse.
Well, good morning. Thank you. Good to be here.
I appreciate having you today, and I look forward to having a great conversation.
I as well.
But first of all, I'd just like to ask you how you're doing. It's been a weird time the last year and a half with youth sports and just day-to-day activities. How are you and your family doing to stay happy and healthy during the pandemic?
Well, this has been a challenging time for everybody. And for the first main part of this pandemic, we stayed at home. And what we did was like most other families. We did a lot of streaming videos on TV and the like. And thank goodness for Zoom. We did a lot of contact with other family members by means of Zoom. For the as far as the sporting part of it, I didn't get involved in much of it until the pandemic, until they actually had the vaccinations. They actually had a spring season in 2020, but I opted out of that. I says, no, I'm going to wait. I'm at that age where I'm one of the susceptible ones. So I said, I'm going to wait until the vaccine was done. But overall, my family is doing quite well. We've been fortunate. Nobody has been, stricken by this unfortunate disease, and doing pretty good.
Good. Well, I'm pleased to hear that, and I'm hoping we're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel as far as the pandemic and getting to the other side. Sports is the focus of this. Can you talk a little bit about how you developed your passion for sports?
Oh, certainly. Well, give you a little bit of my history. I'm a native of Louisiana. Both my parents were from Louisiana. We were part of that great migration to the West. And my father, after he came back after his military service, fighting the Korean War and the like, was studying at the Grambling College in Louisiana, now known as Grambling State University. But he was playing in a semi-pro baseball. And I was a young kid, didn't know anything about it until we came to California. And I looked in the closet, and I saw how he had this baseball uniform, and it was those old, those big flannels. And I said, hey, what is this? And he told me the story how he used to play baseball, and he was a catcher and the like. And as a youth, naturally, youth tends to follow what their parents do. And I got involved in baseball and loved it. And, when we were kids, we used to just play baseball sun up to sundown. But you would play whatever was in season. If it was football, you would play football. If it was baseball season, you would play baseball. So as a young athlete, I had a couple of different role models, people that I had seen. My uncles, a couple of them had played and the like, but it really took off once I got involved in Little League baseball, actually. Mm-hmm. And I had a number of great experiences. Southeastern Little League in San Diego, California. I've still got friends to this day that I talk to from my Southeastern Little League days. And then it went up into high school. And once I graduated, I attended a very great athletic school. I attended Lincoln High School in San Diego. home of Marcus Allen and Terrell Davis. We've even had some NBA stars, one who just won a ring for Toronto not too long ago. But I ended up coming up to the Bay Area to attend University of San Francisco. I played football my first year, and I played baseball my freshman year. We had a great freshman team. It was interesting. Our coach called us the greatest freshman team ever, and then we got started, and we had some struggles.
Oh boy!
But we had a number of guys that went on to play. We had some good guys there: Lou Landini, Michael Buskey, Dana Hendershot. These guys could really play, and they used to get on me because I grew up in San Diego listening to Vin Scully in the Dodger games. Right. And naturally, the Dodgers were my team because my father, like most African Americans, was a Dodger fan because of Jackie Robinson. And my father had this tape. He was a recorder, his tape recorder, and he recorded the 1955 World Series when the Brooklyn Dodgers finally beat the New York Yankees in the World Series. And he used to play this back and forth to me, and I got to know all the players and the like. And, when you're coming up as kids, you want to emulate all these guys that you see and all that. And so that was where the beginnings of my sports came about.
Right. The 1955 Brooklyn Dodgers. That was the rite of passage when I was in high school in the 70s was to read Boys of Summer.
Okay.
And I think that a lot of us got to know the Brooklyn Dodgers that way. I got to know the Dodgers growing up here because the Giants were playing the Dodgers all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of like last night.
That was the hated rivalry. And people used to give me a hard time when I first came up when I was a freshman at USF because I had an LA Dodgers hat.
Wow.
So wait a minute, you're in San Francisco now. You got to take that hat off.
Right.
Interesting thing about last night's game.
Yeah.
The plate umpire, Ted Barrett, was in the Northeast Bay Umpires Association. I actually got an opportunity to work. It was the very first really big tournament that I got a chance to work with Richard Griffin and Ted Barrett. Was at San Leandro Ballpark. It was a Babe Ruth 16-18 tournament, and Ted Barrett was the head guy there. And now he's doing Major League Baseball.
Oh, it's amazing the people you cross paths with, and you never know when you're earlier in your career if you're going to be the one that goes on, or if you're crossing paths with somebody. So it's pretty exciting. Yes. So how did these experiences growing up prepare you for college and beyond?
Well, one of the things that I still believe, I didn't realize at the time, but I still seriously believe in sport. Sport can teach you a lot of lessons about life, teamwork, discipline, being responsible to other people, showing up on time. There are just some basic values that you can learn in the world of sports that you can take to your everyday life. And if you tend to do that, it makes it a lot easier. I mean, I even say that in officiating. You see everything and hear everything, but you don't have to acknowledge everything. You don't have to respond to everything. And that's one of the things about officiating, because if you've got rabbit ears, you don't want to be an umpire or a football official, because you might be called a bunch of dirty names before you can get to your car after the game. But it teaches you the principles of sport really teach you a lot that you can actually use in your life. And like I said, I didn't realize that at the time. I just thought I was having fun. But later I began to realize the importance of what I was learning in the world of sport, and how it would be important for me to pass that on to younger people. And that's why I'm involved in the youth development today.
Great. Now, you liked playing sports, and you played ball at USF. What led you to umpiring?
Well, I realized when I was, once I had graduated, actually before I had graduated, that I was not going to be a professional athlete. You know how you grow up as a kid and you say, hey, I want to be a major league ball player, or I want to be a pro football player and the like. And then you realize, hey man, you're only 5'10", 160, and you're not the fastest guy in the world. You can't get out there and play with these guys. And there were, like I said, on our team at USF, there were a number of guys that were offered, professional contracts. And I was looking at that and I said, wait a minute, these guys are going and they're playing in these cities, some of which I had never heard of. And they could be stuck in the minor leagues. It's not like basketball or football. You can be stuck in the minor leagues for, umpteen years. And I said, wait a minute, do I want to do that? And I said, no. So let me look at some other opportunities. And this was a way for me to get involved. I actually really didn't get started until I became a parent. What I had done is I actually started, the first thing that I ever officiated was a soccer game. And that was because my son was playing soccer. And I did a couple soccer games for him because they didn't have any officials there. I didn't know anything about soccer and offsides and all this kind of stuff. So I learned it. So, but what I did was when my son started playing baseball, he was playing both at North Oakland Little League and at Oakland Babe Ruth. And they had teams and they would go to different areas and they'd play, and they went to play over in Contra Costa. It's one game. And I'm sitting in the stands and I could readily see that they were getting homered. The home team was getting all the calls. Not that they earned them. And I wasn't trying to be biased as a parent. I said, wait a minute. I said, you know what? Maybe I should get involved in this for the sake of these kids. And at the time, there weren't a whole bunch of people that were umpiring that looked like me. So I said, hey, I'm gonna do this. I said, I know this game. I played this game. And I started doing baseball, and baseball it kind of just took off. It was the first love that I had in terms of sports was baseball. Right. So it kind of took off. And after I'd been doing it for a while with the youth leagues, I had a gentleman come and tell me, hey, you want to do high school baseball? Can you get to do high school baseball? And I said, hey, I can, I said, yeah, why not? Because he says, hey, I see you got the eye, a little bit about the game. And about that time, that was the mid 80s. It was about the time when Brian Johnson at Skyline was hitting all those home runs, right, for Skyline High School. And so I joined and I started doing high school baseball. I had initially been a member of the old Central Umpires Association. Oscar Matthews, who also had a team in Oakland called Oakland Oscars in the semi-pro leagues. So I jumped from doing youth to doing high school to doing these semi-pro games, because the guy who had got me doing high school, he was doing semi-pros. And he would tell me, hey, now those plays where you call on these youth, when those guys, when you go to play with the men, they ain't got to touch them. If they do a swipe, you call them out. I said, okay, I learned how to do it. So he taught me how to make that transition. And once I started doing the high school ball, I encountered a couple of really good coaches, and some of them were football officials. And they said, hey, you might want to come and do some of this football. And one of them was Jerry Luzar, who was a coach at Castlemont High School. He's a baseball coach at Castlemont. Later became the OAL commissioner. Mm-hmm. And he told me when I came over, he said, hey, you joined a good organization. And I really respected Jerry. He was one of those type of coaches, when you go and do their baseball games, you wanted to be sharp, because he knew the game and he knew the rules. So when I would go to do Jerry's game, I said, oh, I got to be sharp. I'm going to do Jerry's game. But he recommended that, and he told me that I had joined the right association, and that's how I got involved in doing umpiring. And from there into football.
Wow. All right. Terrific. Who were some of the players you crossed paths with that came through Oakland and the East Bay?
Oh, geez. There's quite a list of them. When I first started, I was so amazed at the level of talent. There was so many good ball players, but they ranged from Terrell Lowry. Mm-hmm. Terrell Lowry was very special to me, because Terrell, he was playing for Oakland Tech. there were two people that were special in terms of, I didn't know that he also played basketball. Okay. And I got a chance to do some of his older brother's games. His older brother was playing in the semi-pro league at Bushrod, and they called him Sugar Lowry. And I said, why do they call him Sugar? They said, because he's sweet. and so I got a chance to do Terrell's games when he was playing at Oakland Tech. And I remember once we were playing up at Skyline, and he didn't agree with some call that I made, and made some comment afterwards when they got on the bus. And the next week, I had them again down at Bushrod, and his coach made him, come to me and apologize. He says, hey, Blue, was that you up at Skyline? I said, yes, it was. He says, hey, I'm sorry about that. I said, there's no need to apologize. You didn't do anything. You were just talking. But he was a great athlete. And then, when he ended up going to Loyola Marymount and playing with Hank Gathers and stuff with that great team. Mm-hmm. But and it was the same thing with Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd was playing in the Oakland Babe Ruth League for a team called Dodge. And I said, who is this kid? Who is this guy, Kidd? He's hitting the ball very well and stuff. I saw him hit home runs out at San Leandro Ballpark a couple times. He said, that's Jason Kidd. And they said, you should see him play basketball. I said, basketball? Then when I saw him on the basketball court, he was a man amongst boys. Yes, a man amongst boys. Matter of fact, one of the reasons they changed the rules because of Jason Kidd. He was a little bit older than what had been the norm for high school athletes, and they changed the rule for Jason Kidd. But there were a number of them. Bobby Smith, who played at Fremont, Marcus Jensen at Skyline, Tyson Ross and Ryan Drees, two of the best pitchers to come out of Bishop O'Dowd. Who else? In baseball, God, there were so many that it kind of goes through my head seeing so many. Oh, Dontrell Willis, Jimmy Rollins, Corey Dunlap, Jim Saunders teams at Encinal. They had one of the best high school tournaments every Easter. They called it the Willie Stargell tournament. Rich Griffin and I did that tournament for years. And funny story, Jim Saunders was the head coach, really good coach. And he recruited a lot of these kids out of Oakland. And when I first worked with Jim, he had just become he hadn't gone to Encinal at first. He was JV coach at Bishop O'Dowd. And they were playing a game at O'Dowd. Kid hits a home run, passes up the runner ahead of him. I don't say anything at all. I'm waiting to see what happens. And then Saunders says, did you see that? I said, yes, we got it out. And from then on, he says, oh, yeah, you're a good umpire. And then when he went to Encinal and he built that powerhouse, he had an assistant coach called Dick Gambetta. Big Dick Gambetta was loud and would always chew up umpires. And a lot of people were afraid to go and work in Snell's games because of that. Griffin and I used to say, oh, you guys are afraid of Gambetta? Because we would see Gambetta in the summer when we would do summer ball. So we weren't afraid of Gambetta. So we're doing the Easter tournament at College of Alameda. Encinal is getting beat. And Gambetta's going off. I said, Dick, I've heard enough. He keeps going off and going off. I tell Saunders, I said, Jim, you going to handle that or you want me to handle it? You can't handle it. Goodbye, Dick. So I tossed him in the Easter tournament. They even put something about it in the newspaper that day. And Griffin and I often laugh about that. But they had some great teams. That Dontrell and Corey. I remember when Dontrell was just a gangly left-hander playing JV ball, playing at first base. And then by the time he was a senior, he was throwing so hard. Saunders would call the assigners and say, hey, give me some umpires that can handle this fastball and his curve. And me and Griff would say, hey, we could handle it. We'd go and we'd do the games. But they had some great teams with Jimmy and Jimmy Rollins. Jimmy Rollins at Oakland Babe Ruth, the same way he hit in the major leagues, that's the way he hit as a youth. all the way up. It never changed. He has always been dominant. And he's a good commentator on TV now.
Right.
In terms of football, wow. There's so many guys in football. Will Blackwell from at Skyline, Devon Best. And you know what's interesting about Will Blackwell? He later became the baseball coach at McClymonds. They didn't have enough guys, and I was kind of surprised with that. But they had so many. Deion Struther, Marvell Smith, Langston Walker, Marcus Cotton. Back in the day, John Beam at Skyline had a machine. Okay. Now everybody calls the Silver Bowl the Mac Invitation because Mac is a powerhouse. Okay. But back in the day, before John Beam left to go to Laney, he had a really powerful team up there. And we would go up there to do games, and it would be lined with scouts from the Pac-12 on both sidelines, Arizona State, USC, Washington, because he had that level of talent. And these kids were going on, and they were successful. Later on, Marshawn Lynch, that team at Oakland Tech with Marshawn Lynch, Josh Johnson, and the current coach at Oakland Tech, Verdell Larkins III, we call him the Fell. And they were coached by one of the great coaches, and that's Delton Edwards. He recently passed just this past year. I remember they played in the Oakland Coliseum. They used to play Silver Bowl at Oakland Coliseum, and they were playing Skyline. And this was John Beam's last game before he ended up going to Laney. And I happened to be the head referee at that game when Marshawn Lynch, and we used to say that's the game when Marshawn Lynch became a man.
Oh, really?
He ran all over Skyline. I think he scored 5 touchdowns. He ran up in the stands, pulled off his shirt, talking about my line, my line, my line. But that was the same team. He was an All-American. Verdell Larkins was an All-American, and Josh Johnson, who went on to play for Jim Harbaugh at University of San Diego, ended up in the NFL playing for several teams, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 49ers briefly. And matter of fact, I don't know if he's still on the roster, but I was talking to Verdell Larkins, the Tech coach, earlier this year, and he was telling me, I said, where's Josh? Because Josh had come back and he was helping them coach the team. He said, Josh signed with the New York Jets. So I don't know if he's still with the Jets. But yeah, there were so many good athletes that have come out of Oakland. There's a book that I recommend anybody read. It's called Home Field Advantage. Okay. It's called Oakland, California, the city that changed the face of sports. It's by Paul Brecky Meissner. And it talks about all of these different athletes in all the different sports. It talks about the city of Oakland. I mean, goes from way back, goes back to the Frank Robinson, Beta Pinson days. It talks about those American Legion teams with the Berkovich and teams, Sam Berkovich's teams, and all that stuff. It's really a good book. I recommend anybody that wants to get a good history of Oakland athletics, get this book, Home Field Advantage, the city that changed the face of sports. But yeah, those were some of my fondest memories of the football guys, and football and baseball players that had come through. And there were just so many. Robert Sasser, I remember him at Oakland High. Geez, I mean, it just goes through my head. And talk about some of the coaches besides John Beam and Delton Edwards, who just passed. Alonzo Carter, what he did at Mac, and then he left Mac and he went to Berkeley High, brought them back, put them back in the playoffs, went to Contra Costa, revived that program. Now he's at San Jose State. Started as the running backs coach. Now he is the assistant head coach at San Jose State University. Who else? I remember Ike Kiefer, who had coached at McClymonds. He had coached at Oakland High. Oh, geez, I forgot about this. Mike Markoulis. I remember when I first started doing baseball. Markoulis was the baseball coach at Fremont High School. Really good team. They're playing at Skyline. I'm at first base. Second baseman hits a ball out to right field, home run. So I give the signal, but I got to watch these guys as they touch, and the guy missed first base.
Wow.
So I walk up, and that was back before they changed the rule. Was they had put it on the umpires. We had to say it. The players didn't have to say it then. We had to do it. They didn't. There was no appeal. It was on our
really?
back.
Okay.
Yeah. So I walk towards the plate, and Marvin says, "What you got?" I says, "Well, I got a home run, but I got an out because he missed first base." And Markoulis just went crazy because this was the big rivalry at that time. They were the two best baseball teams at the OL at that time. And Markoulis went crazy. Later, about 2 weeks later, I'm doing a Babe Ruth game not at Greenman, at Arroyo Park in East Oakland. I'm behind the plate. All of a sudden I hear this voice. It's Mike Markoulis. He says, "Hi, Blue." I says, "How you doing, Coach?" He says, "You know what? I thought you weren't going to be a good umpire after you called that on me." He said, "But you know what? You're a good umpire." And it made me feel good because he knew I had made the right call because the kid had missed first base. And some folks didn't have the guts to do that. And I had another a similar experience like that out in Castro Valley High, and Rich Griffin. That's my buddy. I'm telling you, he's the one that got me involved in umpiring, especially in the Babe Ruth leagues and the like. We're doing an all-star tournament, Castro Valley High School, and they sent us there because they said they were having problems with the umpires. So we go there, and we say, "Hey, we're not going to have any problems." So we go there. Kid swings and misses on strike 3. The catcher gets the ball to throw to first base. Kid runs out of the baseline. Ball hits him in the back. I called him out, and I could hear folks saying, "Boo, boo, boo." Ron Scheid, who was the regional director, said, "Hey, that was the best call of the day."
Mm-hmm.
The things, when you get folks who tell you those kind of things, that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and appreciate you for doing that in difficult circumstances, it just gives you confidence. Your confidence grows, and it helped me to become that much better of an official and to be able to make those tough calls that some officials would hesitate to do so.
Right.
But I'm like this. I don't mind. I used to have a T-shirt that says, "I love it when they boo." And what I meant by why I like that was because that means people are paying attention. And I used to tell younger umpires and younger officials, imagine how boring it would be if you went and did a ball game and nobody ever said anything. It would be boring.
Right.
It would be so boring. I said, so when they boo, that means they're paying attention. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're right and you're wrong. Sometimes it could, but you don't let it bother you, even if that's the case, because you go on to the next play and they even up over time. So that's been my experience.
Well, I'll tell you, on a personal level, you brought tears to my eyes when you talked about Coach Saunders and Encinal, because my son played there. In the early 2000s, from 2001 to 2005. So
I probably did some of his games.
Probably did. I know Griff did.
Yes.
He was a sophomore when Corey Dunlop was a senior.
Oh, okay.
So he played with Corey and Nick Loy.
Yes, I remember Nick.
There were a couple of years where he crossed paths with Brandon Crawford in the Willie Sargent tournament.
Okay.
Brandon would come into Alameda from Foothill High and play in the tournament. So, but you described Dick Gambetta to a T. Philip's sophomore year, he pitched a little bit. He left-handed. He didn't throw hard. So Gambetta had him pitch into the corners and to spots. So he'd either be at the corner or a little bit off the plate. but we always knew what Gambetta was thinking because he made his thoughts known.
Oh yeah. Oh, he was loud. He was loud. He was always loud. And I appreciated him actually because he knew his baseball.
Oh, he did. And
but he knew which umpires he could get under their skin and get a call from them.
Right.
And Griff and I just wanted to let him know, we ain't buying that. We're not drinking that Kool-Aid.
Well, he absolutely loved the kids, and the kids loved playing for him. It was a good experience for Phil. I can tell you that right now. So
that was a great program. And another person who comes to mind, who is actually one of my idols. When I was in college, I got a chance to go down to Santa Clara and play at Santa Clara. We had USF. We had a great schedule. We played Stanford. We played Cal.
Right.
You know, we played a really good schedule. But at night, one night, we got a chance to go down to Santa Clara, play a night game. It was my first night game in college. Now I was pumped, and I had a great game. I had 3 hits, stole a couple bases, and it was the only time that I ever had this happen to me. I'm on second base. It's a close ball game. This is just freshman team. Close ball game. Line drive to center. We're in Buckshot Stadium. Line drive to center. And I take off from second base. I know I'm going to score. This is a single. I know I'm going to score. So I round third. And I get close to the plate. And I'm going into what we would call our Hollywood slide for show, you know. And all of a sudden, I'm in the air about to hit the ground. And I see the catcher's got the ball. And he catches it and he tags me out. And I turn around and look and I said, who is that center fielder? Dan Pastorini, quarterback for the Houston Oilers later and eventually for the Raiders.
For the Raiders, yeah.
Yes, for the Raiders. Threw me out from center. It only happened to me once in my entire career. And I turned around and looked, and he was a big guy. I said, who is this? But they had a team because 2 innings later, same thing. I'm at second base, single to right field. Only this time I didn't make the wide turn around third base. I cut that base real sharp and came, and I just got under the tag. But their right fielder threw the same thing. But at Santa Clara, they had a set of twins. They were from Oakland, the Strain twins, Albert and Alvin Strain. And Bert Strain is still working with youth today, teaching them baseball. But they were like my heroes. I had never seen a combination like them. And I got introduced to them by Ben Moore, who was my freshman coach, who was a Philly scout. And Ben had really set us up to play games against all kinds of people. We played against the Phillies rookies when Larry Boa was on the team.
Wow.
But he introduced me to the Strain. I saw them play in the varsity game because the varsity would always play Santa Clara at Candlestick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I got a chance to meet the Strains, and Bert Strain. Matter of fact, his son played at Encinal.
Right. He came around. When my son was there, he would throw batting practice.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, you know, he's still teaching kids
really
baseball.
Right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I saw something on YouTube. I saw it on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And he has some young prospects out there swinging the bat, and I'm saying, wow, Bert Strain still at it. Yeah, those are a couple of really fond memories that I had.
Yeah, you hit a couple of hot buttons for me. You talked about when you were very young, you played whatever sport was in season.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about Jason Kidd playing baseball. Coach Saunders used to talk about Jimmy Rollins playing basketball on the Encinal team. And then Dan Pastorini making the throw.
Mm-hmm.
And now, a lot of times a kid's 10, 11 years old, and coaches are telling them to specialize.
Yes.
And it just, part of it, you want to be a kid and you want to experience everything, but all the sports relate to each other as far as developing skills. And what are your thoughts on specialization at a young age?
I'm totally against it.
Yeah.
Totally against it. for a couple of reasons. One of which you just said.
Mhm.
They, you need to experience each different sport to determine which one you like more.
Mhm.
Okay. And as you get older, your body grows and changes. I mean, look at it like this. Some guys are only 5'10" in junior high school. By the time they get to high school, they can be 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". They may not have liked basketball before, but all of a sudden they got this height and they say, oh, wait a minute. And my motor skills are starting to develop a little better as a result of their playing baseball. So they say, well, wait a minute, I'm going to decide what I'm going to do. And I'm not necessarily going to stop doing what I was doing before. I'm going to keep playing baseball and still play basketball. We had several guys, when I went to USF, we had several guys on the basketball team that ended up coming and playing baseball. And so I'm totally against this specialization. Right. And I know basketball has become the big sport because they play it year round, year round. And there are more coaches, I think, that are stunting the growth of kids by that specialization. I'm totally against it. Like I said, whatever was in season was what we did. And right. Sometimes the seasons overlapped. Like in baseball season, that's track season. Track is one of my passions. I go to the high school state track meet every year. I've been to the Olympics games. I've been to, matter of fact, I'm planning on going to the World Championships up at University of Oregon next year. They were supposed to be in here. I'm a track junkie, but I'm a baseball man. Those two are at the same season in the spring. Matter of fact, when I was a sophomore, as much as I loved baseball, I was in a high school that had a great track team. Lincoln High School, San Diego. Didn't lose a dual track meet in 8 years. Really powerhouse down there. What the coach did, I was about to run on the track team. I'm on the track team, and the JV baseball coach comes and says, hey, I need a catcher. And he knew I'd been an all-star catcher in the Little League and caught in Pony League and the like. I said, but hey, I'm running track. He said, I said I need a catcher. He says, they tell me you're a baseball player. I said, yeah. So I went and played baseball. But those type of conflicts, you let the kid decide. I don't think you want to specialize. I wasn't going to be, top flight, sprinter. My son, he did that while he was in high school. But I said, no, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play baseball then. But kids, I don't think, number one, that they are ready to make that decision consciously. And I don't think they're taking in consideration their growth of their body and what's going to happen later. So I'm totally against this specialization.
I agree. I just think it's so important. If nothing else, you just want to be a kid as long as you can.
Yes.
And sports is fun and the experience is fun. So, yeah. So anyway,
yep.
It's just play.
Yeah, let them experience. Let them play different things and let them make the decision. I'm totally against parents making the decision for them. It's like a kid who's graduated from high school and he's trying to decide where he's going to go to college. I don't think parents should make that decision. Right. I think the kids should make that decision. That's just me.
Right. I agree. Yeah. So you mentioned a lot of great names. Is there anybody you're still in contact with?
Oh, geez. I still see, every now and then I'll see Marshawn. A lot of them I'll see on TV. Bip Roberts. I remember when he came back to coach at Skyline, and it was kind of funny because his first name is Leon. Okay, and we were doing a game at Oakland Tech, me and Rich Griffin, and he says, "Man, I feel funny calling you Leon." I said, "I know that's your first name," but there were several that I would run into from time to time, but none that I actually keep in close contact with. Well, a couple of coaches, John Beam, I'll end up talking with him every now and then. And part of that is because of my football officiating because the Silver Bowl is played now at Laney.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll see him from time to time. And for a while, his daughter was the acting OAL commissioner.
Oh.
Yeah, now she took a job. She's with the North Coast section now, but she was the acting commissioner. So I'll see him from time to time. And excuse me, and Alonzo Carter. I'll keep in touch with Coach Carter. He's been bugging me for the past couple of years to come down to see San Jose State play. And every now and then I'll run into Bert Strain.
Right.
You know, so more so the coaches, you know, the athletes, they'll run into you, they'll say,
mm-hmm.
I remember you. You know, they can't tell you your name. Just say, I remember you. I say, yeah, I remember you too. I know who you are. And I just leave it at that.
Right.
Just leave it at that.
Terrific. Terrific.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of experiences, both playing, officiating, and being a role model. What's next for you? What's on your bucket list?
Oh, geez. On my bucket list. Well, I've been fortunate in that I've had a lot of good games that I've done, in both in football and in baseball. I want to do some things beyond that. I want to visit all 7 continents.
Oh, okay.
I've been to Europe, been to Africa. I've got some friends in Asia that have been bugging me to come there. I want to go there. I want to go down under to Australia. I wanted to go to the Olympics in Brazil, but from what I was hearing about that wasn't the time to go. A lot wasn't conducive to my doing so. But I want to visit all 7 continents. I like doing some traveling, and I got a chance to do some while I was in college, and later as an adult. That's one of the things. Because one of the things I want to see, I want to go to Brazil. I want to go to Peru, Machu Picchu, visit that. So it's mostly travel oriented. And I want to do some of this with family members, with my grandkids. I got 3 granddaughters now, and so they love traveling. So I like doing so with them. And with my wife, of course. I've been married now 47 years. So yeah, and my wife's about to retire next year. So we're looking at a bunch of different things, whether or not we're going to stay in the Bay Area, which I love, but she's from back east, and she says, hey, I might want to think about going back east, being closer to my family. I says, well, hey, we can explore that. But mostly travel related, and simply trying to stay as healthy as I can. I might explore doing some things in sport off the field. Because now that I'm, older, I see these kids getting bigger and faster, and we get older and slower. And so I don't want to be one of those who stays on the field too long and ends up getting hurt.
Right.
So I'm looking at, that's one of the reasons I took this administrative position with the East Bay Football Officials Association, and doing some more things like that. I don't know if I'd want to do so at a higher level. I don't think I'd want to go much higher maybe than the collegiate level. So we'll see how that goes.
All right. A lot of options.
Yes. There's a lot to do. This is a big wide world with a lot of things you can do. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you being on the show today. It's been a great conversation and great memories.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing professionally with Marmign Associates?
Okay. Well, what I'm doing there is I'm actually doing some consultations. Mm-hmm. I do, and they vary. I do some with business owners, helping them to write their business plans and the like. I also do some things with them, helping to increase capacity. I also do some things with I'm a notary and the like, helping folks put together their financial statements and the like. I was in banking for a number of years before I got into the securities industry as a stockbroker. So I try to do some things that are business related, but the most joy that I get is doing things with the young people. I ended up for a couple of years, I taught Introduction to Entrepreneurship up at UC Berkeley Haas School of Business,
Right.
introducing young people to entrepreneurship, teach them how to do a business plan, how to put together a spreadsheet and do the projections and the like, and how to write their business plans and the like. And I ended up, as a result, working with the Department of Labor with a program called Youth Opportunity Project, which also is getting youth to remain in school, continue their education, and look forward to getting their degrees. McClymonds was our main school when we were doing that here in Oakland, and then for a while I did so with a group in San Francisco. But that's what gives me the most joy. Every now and then I'll run into one of the youth that I had the opportunity to teach something about entrepreneurship and about the business world, and they are just so grateful. They say, hey, I didn't think about that. I mean, I got a chance to take them over to before it closed, to the Pacific Stock Exchange in San Francisco. They had no concept of what stock meant and all this. They says, oh, Mr. Monroe, I really like this. I really like this stock stuff. I says, yeah. I said, see, and all it is exposing them to things that they hadn't really had an opportunity to experience, and they really appreciate it. And it opens some eyes when they say, oh, I say, see, there's more to this world than what you see in your neighborhood. And that's why the majority of the kids that I had been working with the program were in underprivileged, and some of them hadn't even been across the bridge to San Francisco. Right. In their life. And you take them and you expose them and say, hey, there's a much bigger world than what you see right in front of you. And especially now with all the trouble that we got going on since the pandemic began, it just means that much more. So I'm just hoping that we can get back to being able to get in front of them, as opposed to doing this with Zoom, face to face, to help them realize what their dreams are.
Terrific. If somebody wanted to contact you about Marmign Associates or
Sure.
any of your activities, what's the best way to do it?
Sure. There's two ways. lrmonroe45@yahoo.com. Mm-hmm. So that's LR, my first two initials in my last name, Monroe. 45 was my old college umpiring number. So lrmonroe45@yahoo.com. That's the best way. Or they can always give me a call, 510-719-9207. 510-719-9207. That's anything, Marmign related or sports related. Be glad to sit down with them.
All right. Terrific. Well, I will also put that in the show notes too. So
please.
Anyone listening or watching can find it. So anyway, thanks again. This was a great conversation.
Okay. I certainly enjoyed it.
And I think I could speak for Leon. We both appreciated everyone who watched and listened today. I know I had fun, and I hope you had as much fun listening and watching as we did. Now, if you'd like to know more about what we do at Productive Discourse, go to productivediscourse.home.blog. It gives great information about our activities and how you can contact me if you'd like me to speak at your service club, community organization, religious group, or your Toastmasters club. We'll be back again next week. We'll have another episode on the great athletes and sports heroes that came out of the playgrounds and sandlots of Oakland, California. But in the meantime, please like, share, comment, and subscribe so this message will go far and wide, and we'll find that shining needle of common ground in that haystack of fear.